All right, welcome. Have you ever made a YouTube video before?
No, it's my first one.
I'm always very vocal with what I see as YouTube's strengths and YouTube's shortcomings. And around Christmas and New Year's, when all the Logan Paul stuff was going down and there was a lot of criticism of YouTube's PR and everything else, I emailed Robert here and said, why not use the platform as a way to communicate YouTube's positions on these things and its outlook for the future? And he said that's a great idea. And this is sort of a first stab at that. He offered, thank you, to come on my YouTube channel and talk about the future of YouTube and answer whatever questions I had. Is that fair?
That is absolutely fair, and I'm so happy to be here. So thanks for it. It's actually your idea. It wasn't my idea. It was yours.
Trying to be generous.
And it's risky, but hey, that's what you guys do. Risky stuff every day.
Tell us who you are. I think most YouTubers, when they think of YouTube leaderships, they know Susan, but people don't know you. So who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm Robert Kyncl. I'm Chief Business Officer of YouTube. And in my day-to-day job, I'm responsible for all of the YouTube creators and content partners who are making their living on YouTube and creating amazing audiences. So all of your problems are my problems. All of your wins are my wins. So we are tied at the hips, and I just love what I do.
I think most people's questions have to do with the Logan Paul controversy because it's still very, very fresh. Mm-hmm. And to lead that off, I'm curious, what's it like for you, and then what's it like inside of YouTube when something like that or any of the previous controversies happen? Is there a protocol in place?
Yeah, I mean, we have, depending on the severity of the issue at hand, we have escalation processes that take place, and we're looking at how this works against the guidelines, the community guidelines that we have set on YouTube, which really help operate an open platform like ours. There's quite a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that the rest of the world doesn't see.
How did it land on the homepage?
I think you have. There are no simple answers to that, except that there was a lot of interest in that video. There were a lot of searches for it all around the world on YouTube, and it ended up there.
I think it was 9 days between it happening and you guys responding to it. How do you do better?
So we actually we had a press reply the next day within in less than 24 hours, but our social response was delayed. And so what we were working on is we were trying to formulate our response. And of course, with Logan and a lot of his projects for original productions, there are hundreds of people involved, people whose paychecks depend on it. So we don't want to make a rash decision that impacts so many people's livelihood. It's not just Logan; it's many other people across multiple projects. However, we do want to be much faster. We're looking at those processes, and we want to be much more active.
There was a line in that statement you guys put out on social that said, "We'll have more to share soon on the steps we're taking to ensure a video like this is never circulated again." And I think that line, "a video like this," had a lot of the community questioning what that means. And this is a bigger question, which is how do you balance kind of being the thought police, saying this is okay and this is not, versus free speech, which is what YouTube has stood for so much so.
And you're hitting the nail on the head, which this is one of the hardest things. Scaling openness, developing standards, making sure that users feel safe, creators feel safe, and advertisers feel safe. Obviously, this video was not something that and I don't think anyone is proud to be associated with. But we think that the more we develop our community guidelines, the more we hone them and develop our standards along those lines, we think we can get there.
Culture, YouTube culture. I've noticed sort of in the last year plus, drama would be the descriptor I'd use to really drive the culture of YouTube. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? Drama.
Are you talking about the drama you create?
I'm a part of the problem with this, but drama is rewarded with views. Drama is rewarded with attention. Drama is rewarded ultimately with dollars. And I think a lot of that is what eventually sort of metastasized into the kind of sensationalist content that let things like the Logan Paul controversy happen.
Yeah.
How does YouTube affect culture to
I'm talking about the incentives and disincentives for that. We're thinking very deeply and every single day now on how do we create the right incentives and disincentives for creators to do the right thing on YouTube. And that means a lot of different things. That means do the right things for advertisers, do the right things for their users, for the platform organically, and not chase sensationalism, not chase views for the sake of views, not use drama for the sake of views, and not use drama at our expense for the sake of views. Right? So what's at heart for us is that we deeply care about the creator ecosystem. That's my job. If you don't succeed, we don't succeed. What we want to make sure that creators who are making a living on YouTube feel safe doing so. That there's no gaming, basically. That it's just all about like doing the right thing, and it is our job to set those guidelines in place and incentives in place. So we're working on that quite busily.
What kind of creators would you like to see more of on the platform?
Are you talking about me personally, or you
I
talking
mean
about
more
company?
to the bigger question of culture. Like, what would you love to see ultimately as kind of the defining creator movement on the platform, and how would YouTube foster the kind of relationships needed to enable?
I personally like a lot of news-related content on YouTube. It just helps catch up on everything that's going on, and it has a different flair on YouTube. Educational content, but I don't mean the traditional educational sense. It's just that I've learned something new. My older daughter, who became vegan, and we didn't want them to become vegan, and then them, because it's a lot of work.
Yes.
and she found all the inspiration and all the arguments on how to argue and convince parents on YouTube. By the way, the one category I didn't mention is, and we would like more and more female creators on the platform. Right? Just
hear that? Big opportunities on the platform. I always,
It's a huge opportunity, huge. And so
L Mills, have you discovered L Mills yet?
and by the way, every time you tell me that, I remember the last time you said, "Oh, you gotta watch this guy, David Dobrik." This was like 3 years ago. It was like he's on the rise, and of course,
yeah, David's a star.
He's a star. So I know you have an eye for it. So I'll make sure to follow her. No, but that's another category that we're really focused on. What do we want to grow? We want everybody to grow, but what do we want to grow a little bit more that maybe is underserved, that maybe needs the extra push in terms of our attention, extra push in terms of marketing, content funding, whatever it is, and then we put somebody on it and say, build a plan. They build a plan, we approve the plan, and then they start executing against it. That's how the process with us works.
So this is a big question I have, that I've always had, which is that in all my years in television, I never met a TV studio head who wasn't at one time a TV producer. In cinema, I've never met a movie studio head who didn't produce movies. But no one on the YouTube sort of senior executive leadership side has ever made a living as a creator. So how does Susan, how do the other leaders at YouTube empathize with the struggles of being a creator, having never been there yourself?
So I might not have produced myself, but I'll just give you my little quick background. I started in the mailroom of a talent agency, working with writers, actors, directors, stapling their pictures and resumes and sending it to cast directors, etc. Became an assistant, and just went to work for a movie production financing company. So made a lot of films, and then went to HBO and launched HBOs around the world, and eventually to Netflix, and then to YouTube. So I've been around content all of my professional career. And have learned it from inside out and every angle. So I'm deeply passionate about it. I live it, and that's both my professional and personal life. Now, when it comes to, but I have not been a YouTube creator myself. When you think about YouTube, it's really a massive platform. It's a massive technological feat. And what you really need is people who are incredibly proficient at building an infrastructure on a unprecedented level all around the world of ingesting 450 hours of video every single minute, streaming a billion hours a day in HD quality. So what our company has to do is sort of marry the technological prowess with content prowess together, and do it at scale.
The changes in the partner program. So you have to have 4,000 hours of watch time, 1,000 subs to monetize. A question or something I saw a lot on Twitter was new or tiny YouTube channels seeing that as tremendously discouraging. So how do you respond to that?
So we don't succeed unless you succeed. If there are no great creators, there are not going to be enough users, there's not enough advertisers. It doesn't work. So we think that this level is high enough for us to learn about the partner so that we can turn ads on them and not disappoint advertisers. And at the same time, that it's not so far out that it will be untenable and unreachable for them. We want as many creators monetizing, but we also want to make sure that everybody who's monetizing is doing the right thing and is protected. Because if somebody doesn't do the right thing and are in there and advertisers react in a certain way, then all of you get punished. And that's not a good outcome, because then you don't succeed, we don't succeed. Nobody's happy.
About monetization, when you guys made the changes that were made in response to Adpocalypse, there was a lot of frustration, a lot of frustration expressed on social media. Did you guys see that outcry coming for the false positives? Did it catch you off guard?
It was really, really hard, because you're just trying to stabilize the ecosystem that's moving around. So yes, we heard the outcry, of course, and I can tell you there's nothing more painful than hear from the advertisers, their stories, and nothing more painful than hear from the creators. And you should know, both sides think that we favor the other. Both sides think, and so we clearly have work to do of the ecosystem.
It does feel like at times that what creators want to make and what audiences want to see doesn't always align, or doesn't align with what advertisers want to buy against. How do you rectify that?
So, sometimes that happens, and it's really hard to tell an advertiser, look, you must buy this, right? Because they say, look, that's my brand, and I just don't want to. That's their choice. One of the things that we worked really hard on last year was our yellow monetization icon, because that really, which I know might have been painful and work, but it was something that helped us reduce false positives by 30%. It was really impactful. Suddenly getting the input from creators saying, look, this was not correct. Everyone who participated in that.
Let me ask you about the yellow icon, because from the most cynical creator perspective, what it's viewed as is a way of saying, we think this might not be advertiser friendly, so we're going to cut your revenue on it, but we're still playing it. So it's costing you the creator money while we figure this out. And I think that I as a creator found that very insulting. I found that very upsetting. Why do I have to take your algorithm's mistake? Why does it have to cost me money? How does YouTube address something like that at the kind of scale that?
Yeah, I remember you calling on this issue. I think it was maybe October or somewhere there. Yeah. And that's when we started to think about let's tell creators that they shouldn't publish them yet, have them unlisted. It gets reviewed, it's scanned, and then they won't go through the volatility. So that has worked.
As a creator, it feels like there's a lot of tension between the creator community and YouTube as a company. Is that felt? Do you think it's a fair statement? Is that felt within YouTube as a company?
I wouldn't want to call it tension, because it would imply that we're on opposite sides somehow, and we're not. We're on the same side. The thing that we have struggled with, and you've told that to me multiple times, is communication. And you should know that we try so hard to communicate with creators, and it's always so disheartening. But we want the feedback to keep on coming, but it's disheartening to hear that it's not cutting through. But you should know that we don't see it as tension. We see it as, if people are not happy, we have a problem, we're on the same side, we need to figure out how to fix it.
Well, let me end then with this this and this question. And this is more of a prompt than a question, but I think that YouTube's never been good at saying, here's what matters to us, here's what we stand for, and here's what to expect from us. So I invite you to now just kind of use this platform as a way to tell all of us creators in the community what matters to you, what do you stand for, and what is next for YouTube as a platform.
Sure. So what we stand for is really 4 freedoms. Freedom of opportunity, anybody to make a living on YouTube, bring revenue from the entire world, and there are many wonderful examples. Freedom of speech, as important as ever. Freedom of information, accessing it. I grew up in a communist country, in Czechoslovakia, behind the Iron Curtain. It's really important, the openness and freedom of speech and freedom of information is really important to me, and that is why I love what I do. And then the 4th one is freedom to belong. People creating communities on YouTube that they can feel like they can share a bit more with, that they may not have in person somewhere else, but on YouTube they do. So we have these 4 core freedoms that we truly care about. What is important to us is the success of our partners. The partners are creators and advertisers. So to us, what's most important is bringing these 2 communities together, advertisers and creators, and make sure that they all succeed. And if they do, we'll be fine. And everything that I say is like that, we're on your side. We mean it. We may not get it right, many times for one reason or another, but the intent is always good. The intent is always on your side. And so hopefully we can deliver more and more on that and truly make everybody even happier and more successful.
Well, Robert, thank you for coming on. And I want to say that Robert did not ask me to do this, but I can't have you on, Robert, without plugging your book, Stream Punks. By reading this book, I get to understand how you think of YouTube. And that means a lot, considering you're the one pulling all the strings. And then the second thing that I like the most, and I wish you had talked more about it, because I think it's just the first chapter or the preface or something, is when you talk about your upbringing in here, behind the Iron Curtain and not having any access to media at all. And the first movie that you ever saw was Terminator, but it was dubbed in Czech.
Ne, nedělej to, prosím.
Musím jít, Johne.
And understanding that that's where you're coming from, and now that you're in the position you're in, enables me to empathize with you and by proxy with YouTube more. So,
thank you, Casey. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Awesome studio.
This is great.
All right.